Hello, Bob.
Yeah, nice to hear your voice.
Nice to meet you. We have an audience here. Maybe we will welcome with the może powitamy. This is for you. We are grateful that you are with us. Could you just tell us a few words? How come you ended up in Hong Kong? How long have you been? So we know a little bit of your background.
Well, I arrived in actually 1986 was my first trip to Hong Kong and to China, and I came as a pastor, as a missionary, and then I ended up moving here in 1992. So I've been here a long time, and I spent some time traveling around the world, about 10 years to do ministry, but I was always based in Hong Kong and also southern China. So I'm very familiar with this area. And also, I'd like to say before I continue on, thank you for inviting me. So, very familiar with the people here. I live like the local people because a lot of people come here and they live like tourists almost.
Bob, you've seen Hong Kong becoming under the communist rule, right? The communist China. So, what changes have you observed when the Chinese came? How Hong Kong changed during this rule? Pytamy o zmiany, jakie zaobserwował pastor, kiedy przyszli chińscy komuniści, kiedy w 1997 przejęli Hongkong.
Well, communist China, and I want to make it very clear that it really is communist, but the basic idea is still there of communism. And then I arrived, I was here on July 1st, 1997, when communist China came into Hong Kong. That's called the handover. And I watched the tanks and the army troops come into the city, and to see a tank going down the street, a lot of machines like tanks, it was quite an amazing sight. And the people in Hong Kong were very much against it at that point in time. Now, all these years later, the thinking is changing slowly. There's a group of people that are very much familiar with the idea of communism, and they stand against it and they suffer. And then there's a group of people that are kind of now becoming more and more, you could use the word indoctrinated because of the television and the education. And then there's a large, the businessmen are taking advantage of some money opportunities, so they also support China, but some don't. And for me personally, I'm very sad, actually, about what I'm seeing happening here. I'm also a bit afraid because I've seen recently in the last 4 or 5 years, people who speak out against communist China are beaten, disappear, or put in jail.
How about the young people? Because some of them become very radical, and they are talking about the independence of Hong Kong.
Mm-hmm.
Are they radical?
Well, of course, there are many, many young people. It's just not a few. I think most of the young people are very discouraged about what's happening to their society, and they cannot do much about it. Some of them think like that, and there's some that have clearer ideas about what is happening to the society and what is China. Everyone in Hong Kong just knows what is happening in communist China, even though they say Hong Kong is still part of it, part of China. But actually, they're just looking over to mainland China, and they're seeing the way people live, and they don't want to live like that. And also, the social media is very important to the young people's understanding of what's happening in the world. And they're passing laws now that are making it. They set up a bureau for the internet, a government bureau, and they're making it very difficult now to start to access the internet freely. I think that is coming. There will be all kinds of laws put into place. If you speak out against communist China, that's already in place. You'll be arrested. The books at the ages of 3, school children from 3 to high school or university, they're changing the wording in the books now to reflect that everything is positive for communist China and negative for, say, for England or the rest of the world. So this is brainwashing.
And how about the role of the Christians? Do they play any role in the opposition movement? Can we see them?
Well, I'm
sorry,
I'm a
I will
pastor,
translate
as you
the
heard,
question.
and I'm able to work with the people who are on the streets, who are standing up, the protesters. But they're not necessarily protesters. They just have a clear understanding of what's happening in their society. You have about 5 to 10 churches that are actually going out and speaking out against communist China coming here. You have about 5 to 10 churches, around that number. Of course, there are thousands of churches in Hong Kong, but they keep silent. But what's really exciting for me is that many of the leaders of the voices who are speaking out for their own freedoms, independence, they are Christians. And I know them, and I pray with them.
Okay, maybe ask for some questions from the audience, if there are any questions. The question is about why Hong Kong did not become independent like Singapore. Why was it not possible?
Well, it's a little difficult to talk about Singapore and Hong Kong as being similar or even the same, because they're really quite different. But the first thing that happened here in Hong Kong was they have no way. I've had people tell me, we have nothing but our words to stand up to the government or to the police or to the army, the Chinese army, because they took away all their weapons, any chance to have a weapon. Very much like before, in Poland, they had no weapons. So they have prayer, they have their voice. They have the international community. This is for Hong Kong. The population here is about 7 million people. And during the Occupy Central movement, I personally saw 1 million people come to the streets. Of course, that's an estimate. But even that could not change the situation, because they were 1 million people yelling and shouting and trying their best to make something happen. But they couldn't do it. They were tear gassed, and I was chased with shotguns and M16 rifles, these kind of things. And I saw people beaten a lot, and they were peaceful. For Hong Kong, it's total control now. The communist China is total control of Hong Kong, whereas in Singapore, communist China is not there. At least if they are, it's underground. But it's not the same situation as here.
You have mentioned that only a few churches are taking a voice and opposing the policy of communist China. Why only a few of them? Why the others are silent and don't do anything? Are they afraid? Are they bribed? What's the reason?
Well, I think part of it is historical, because the churches here, before England was a colony Hong Kong was a colony of England, and the churches were under the English church. I think that's part of it. They had a very subservient role to the government. It's been that way for 150 years. And anything that, there's some benefit, the government will give you land to build the church for free. And, there's a huge benefit to being on the side of the government. So the people that are standing up, the churches that are coming out, I can tell you, I firsthand experience, the police will stand there with just 5 people praying and doing communion. This is the Catholic Church, doing communion on the sidewalk. The police will have about 10 policemen around them taking photos. And I've marched with Christians before, and there would be 30 to 50 policemen surrounding us, walking alongside of us. So I think it's black and white, really, what is happening in the church here. Of course, we know prayer is very important, and God hears our prayer.
Are there any examples of physical persecution of Christians? For example, they are not allowed to gather at homes to pray, they are arrested or kidnapped, or other forms of persecution, like in China. This is one about
The answer
Christian?
to that is no. The
No.
simple answer to that is no.
No.
We don't have what is happening in China. The people that are standing up, like this small group of Christians, 10 churches or so, they tend to have some more difficulty. They're followed, they're taking their photograph, they can be targeted for arrest. But it's not like China, communist China at all, or mainland China. It's quite different. And so we have freedom still to tell people what's happening in Hong Kong. It's really sad. It's shocking.
And have you heard about the movement Falun Gong? It's persecuted in China. Is this the same
Correct.
in Hong Kong? Are they persecuted?
Well, I can say like this. Yes, I've met some of the people and I've talked to them, and I'm not Falun Gong myself, but I will tell you this: anyone who speaks out against Beijing, China, and the leadership in China, it doesn't matter what you are, they will have your name, and they can very easily come after you in Hong Kong. So the reality is here, yes, the police do come around them constantly, follow them when they come together as a group. But they're very much treated like other people, the Falun Gong. There's not that much difference. They have banners that will denounce China. And now the people in Hong Kong are starting to do that. Falun Gong did it before, and now more and more people are doing it because they see what's happening.
Could you repeat? They have banners?
Okay. About Falun Gong, more and more people, Falun Gong still has people follow them, and they have banners or posters denouncing China, denouncing the leaders of China, speaking bad things about them. But now more and more people in Hong Kong are doing the same thing, and they're not Falun Gong because they see what is happening.
The people who persecute those who oppose in Hong Kong are people from Hong Kong, or they are mainly Chinese? Is it like Chinese army, Chinese police, or is it also?
It's both. It's both. We have the police force is the second largest in the world. It's around 60,000 for a very small city, and they very much stand with Beijing. They take orders from China.
This is the Hong Kong police, right? Hong Kong police.
Okay. And then China sends people here. They either use what they call the mafia kind of people to work alongside the police, and it's not official, right? Or they send people that are like criminals to stand against peace-loving people. And many times I've seen the army people out on the street, but they don't wear uniforms. And I followed them back, groups of them. They were taking pictures on walkie-talkies, and I followed them back to their army base. So I know they were army people. You could just tell by looking at them.
From the time of the British rule till the moment the communists came, did you notice any changes in the attitude people toward evangelization, toward Christianity? Are they more open to Christianity? Like in China, we know the number of Christians is growing right now. Even the oppression is bigger. How about Hong Kong?
Well, again, this is my personal feeling, but I've been here a long time, and I know lots of Christians. The Christian numbers have gone down very, very dramatically here. The books, before said it was around 15% Christians. Probably before 1997, 15% were Christians. Mainly because
books or people.
Pardon?
I didn't hear. 50% of what?
15, 1-5. Not 50,
15.
1-5.
15%.
It was never a huge percentage, right? It was 1-5%. But now I think it's less than 1%. Yeah.
And what is the reason for?
Go ahead.
What is the reason for the decrease of Christianity?
Well, there's a few reasons. Sociological, there's some reasons. One is they work here like something like a slave or a robot. That's the society has put that into place. Under the British, they treated the workers a little bit better. Not great, but better. But now it's much different. The people work nonstop, 6 days a week, 7 days a week for long, long hours. So they're exhausted, and on Sunday they're too tired to go to church. The Education Bureau is speaking out against anything foreign. They call the church foreign, is something from another country. And they are speaking out against, they don't specifically say the church, but they say anything that is foreign is bad. China is the motherland, and anything else is bad. Within 7 days of Communist China coming to Hong Kong in 1997, I will tell you two things that I saw with my own eyes. The first thing was they had a cross. They had the government, the army, England Army barracks in Central, which is the main district of Hong Kong. And they had a chapel there, or a church room, with a cross on the outside of the building. The 2 or 3 days after the army was here, China Army, they covered the cross and they removed it. That's number one. Number two is all missionary visas for Christians were canceled. Or they did not renew them, and they did not issue new ones. So now it's impossible to have a missionary visa for Hong Kong. So I think that really tells you everything.
If in few words, could you tell Polish people why we should care about what is going on now in Hong Kong? Why is it important to talk about this, to try to know the recent events? Why, for people living in Europe, in Western countries, why we should care about small Hong Kong?
Well, first of all, thank you for asking that question.
Dziękuję za to pytanie.
It's very important and it's close to my heart because I live here, but as you can see from my face, I'm also from somewhere else. The reality is that Hong Kong still has freedom. It's a beacon of light for the Communist China people, the mainland people. People from China can come to Hong Kong. You know, you have to get a visa, or it's not like unlimited access, but they can come, and they do come as tourists and workers. You know, they don't have freedom. They don't have Facebook in China, but Hong Kong does. Hong Kong has access to the world, and China does not. So we're a bridge between China and Hong Kong to the world. Now, the government of China, Communist China, is there. I know this. I've heard them say this, the leaders of China. World domination is very important to them, but they use different words to the world. They use business development as one of the words. They use educational exchanges as one of the words. And so China has a lot of people, you know, and they can easily send people out to populate a country. It's happening all over the world. So what happens is you have to really be concerned about Hong Kong, because Communist China will impact your country and lots of other countries, and not necessarily in a positive way. They will teach that the idea of God is wrong, first of all. That's one idea that they will not agree to. They will teach that China, Communist China, is a very powerful and strong country. It's really not. The reason they're so powerful, they will say, is because we are doing the right things. And then they will say, you are doing the wrong thing. Then they will open up an educational exchange program. Like, for example, students from Poland, university students will go to the universities in China and have 4 years of indoctrination. And then the students will go back to Poland and have communist ideas and bring them to you. So Hong Kong is really important because we have the freedom to have contact with the world, like we're doing right now at this moment. If I was in China, this would not be happening. Or within one day or within the day, I would have the police knocking on my door. You know, you can have video conferencing with the world, but then the police come immediately. So that's why you need to be concerned about Hong Kong.
After 1997, have you noticed any demographic changes in Hong Kong?
Well, they have from 1997, you say July 1st, which was the day of the handover, they immediately had a law put in place. And they allow 150 people from China, Communist China, to come to Hong Kong and live and work as permanent residents. 150 a day. And the Hong Kong people have no say in it at all. They can't change the law. They think they can't change the law. They have no way to stand up to it, and who's in charge of that is Beijing. So out of 6 million population, now we have 1 more million people from communist China. And the students also can come here from communist China, and they have some benefits in the school system. Huge benefits. That's the change in the demographics now.
Bob, thank you for your time. Is there anything else you would like to tell to Polish people? You are welcome.
Well, the reason that I would like to say thank you, first of all, to my friends, my brothers and sisters in Poland. I think that, you really must pray for us, and you must try your best to help us get the word out, because you still have the ability to talk to people around the world. Ours is diminishing quickly. And for the reasons that I said, we care about people around the world. We're not caring just about ourselves. We care about others, but we're fighting for our survival. And I would appreciate it if you will try to do what you can, because we are trying to help your country too. We need to do that. Much of my food that I buy here in Hong Kong is from Poland, believe it or not. We import the food from Poland. And I buy, whenever I see it says Poland on it, I'm really happy. And I buy it. And that tells you that we have a great relationship with you. We don't want that to change. We don't want that to be, we buy our food from China. Thank you.
Thank you, Bob. We will talk about Hong Kong a lot, and we'll pray for Hong Kong.
Thank you
Good
very
luck.
much. God bless you. Bye-bye.
Brawo.